Since Band of Brothers, Captain Lewis Nixon has become one of the more recognizable members of Easy Company. In the series, he frequently references his family's business and even offers Major Richard Winters a position there after the war, an offer Winters eventually accepted. However, the company's history includes a major industrial catastrophe that occurred during the leadership of Nixon's grandfather, Lewis Nixon, known as the Nixon Nitration Works disaster. The event was one of New Jersey's most destructive industrial explosions, resulting in significant loss of life and widespread destruction. The disaster began at approximately 11:15 a.m. on March 1, 1924, when an explosion destroyed a building used to process ammonium nitrate in Nixon, New Jersey, now part of Edison. The initial blast ignited fires in nearby structures belonging to the Nixon Nitration Works, many of which contained highly combustible materials. In total, 20 people were killed, around 40 buildings were destroyed, and the small industrial community of Nixon was largely wiped out. The Nixon Nitration Works complex occupied roughly 12 square miles along the Raritan River near New Brunswick. Located in what was then Raritan Township, the facility was established in 1915 by naval architect and industrialist Lewis Nixon to manufacture gunpowder and other wartime materials for European nations during World War I. Following the war, the site shifted toward the production and handling of other explosive and chemical materials. Among its products was cellulose nitrate, also known as nitrocellulose or gun cotton, a highly flammable substance that became one of the first synthetic plastics. Large sheets of finished cellulose nitrate were stored in nearby buildings. About 300 feet away stood a storage facility leased by the Ammonite Company, which recovered materials from artillery shells for use as agricultural fertilizer. The shells were first processed by the Columbia Storage Company, owned by aviation pioneer Charles A. Levine, which removed TNT at the nearby Raritan Arsenal. The Ammonite facility reportedly contained around 1 million gallons of ammonium nitrate, along with 15 rail tank cars holding approximately 90,000 gallons each during the crystallization process. The disaster occurred when ammonium nitrate inside the Ammonite building exploded. The force of the blast shattered windows up to a mile away and tore doors from their hinges. The explosion was felt well beyond the immediate area. Buildings shook on Staten Island, while residents in Lower Manhattan, Brooklyn, and even Mineola, New York, roughly 50 miles away, reported feeling the shockwave. Flaming debris from the blast ignited nearby cellulose nitrate storage buildings, rapidly spreading fires throughout the complex. Numerous structures, including the company's offices, were soon engulfed. 6 hours after the explosion, fires continued to burn across nearly a square mile. As evening approached, shifting winds threatened to carry the flames toward freight cars and the nearby Raritan Arsenal, where approximately 500,000 high-explosive shells were stored. 4 arsenal magazines had already been crushed by the initial blast, while 2 others suffered severe roof damage. Despite these dangers, firefighters managed to prevent the flames from reaching the arsenal. Within 2 days, reports indicated that 18 people had been confirmed dead, 2 were missing and presumed dead, and 15 others remained hospitalized. In total, about 100 people were injured. Those killed included the wife and 3 children of a plant employee who lived close to the site, a stenographer employed at the works, and 13 laborers repairing the roof of the building where the explosion originated. Middlesex County Prosecutor John Tulin opened an investigation shortly afterward. Those called to testify included Lewis Nixon, his son Stanhope Wood Nixon, and Ammonite Company President R. Norris Shreve. Secretary of War John W. Weeks also ordered a federal inquiry to determine whether the nearby Raritan Arsenal had contributed to the disaster. One theory suggested that traces of TNT remaining in the ammonium nitrate after shell processing had triggered the explosion. Lewis Nixon supported this explanation. Ammonite disputed the claim, arguing that the recovered ammonium nitrate contained only about 0.2% TNT. During questioning, however, Shreve acknowledged that roughly 120 pounds of TNT residue could have entered a nearby stream each day, and that some tanks of ammonium nitrate may have contained higher concentrations. Major A.S. Cassand, commander of the arsenal, rejected the TNT theory and instead believed conditions within the plant itself were responsible. The explosion sparked discussions among federal, state, and local officials about whether explosive manufacturing facilities should continue operating in Middlesex County. 1 month after the disaster, Ammonite sued Nixon Nitration Works for $400,000, alleging negligence. In 1928, a federal judge dismissed the claims and counterclaims between the two companies, leaving Columbia Salvage Company as the remaining defendant. In April 1924, Ammonite Corporation was indicted on 15 counts of involuntary manslaughter and initially entered pleas of not guilty. The following year, the company pleaded guilty and was fined a total of $9,000, equivalent to $600 for each of the 15 workers killed in the explosion. Nixon Nitration Works was also ordered to pay $12,000 to the widow of one of its employees who died in the disaster. The consequences of the explosion extended beyond the immediate legal proceedings. Ammonite dissolved in 1926, a move widely attributed to the fallout from the catastrophe. Shreve later joined the faculty of Purdue University, where he became a respected chemical engineering scholar, author, and educator. A Purdue residence hall was eventually named in honor of him and his wife, Charles L. Levine, whose company had profited from federal shell salvage contracts, pursued aviation ventures after the disaster. In 1927, he financed an attempt to complete the first nonstop flight from New York to Paris, but Charles Lindbergh reached Paris first while Levine's aircraft remained grounded because of a legal dispute. After resolving the issue, Levine became the first transatlantic air passenger, flying from New York to Germany only weeks after Lindbergh's achievement. His later career was marked by numerous legal troubles, including lawsuits from the federal government over alleged overcharges and criminal cases involving counterfeiting, smuggling, and other offenses. Despite the disaster, Nixon Nitration Works was rebuilt and resumed cellulose nitrate production. Lewis Nixon died on September 23, 1940, and control passed to his son, Stanhope Wood Nixon. Following World War II, however, the plastics industry shifted away from nitrate-based products toward acetate-based materials. The company failed to adapt successfully to these changes and gradually declined. 1951, as operations contracted, the company donated 48 acres of land and a dam to New Brunswick. The former industrial site later became part of Middlesex County College and the Raritan Center Industrial Park. 3 years later, residents of Raritan Township voted to rename their community. The name Edison was chosen instead of Nixon, although the Nixon name remains in use through the local post office and postal district. If you have a thought regarding the Nixon Nitration Works disaster, drop it in a comment. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to hit the like and subscribe.